Hi, good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us. If you were here before, I didn't introduce myself, but my name's Natalie. I'm the education lead. So I just want to thank my guests, and Alistair's still here, and I think Serena is. Thank you all for coming. Short bit from me. All I wanted to say is that I hope that you come away from today feeling more hopeful about our future than when you walked in by listening to our guests on their ideas of resistance through queer joy. Okay, so I appreciate that times might be difficult, but we'll do it together. Okay, thank you, everyone. And then I don't know who I'm giving this to.
Thank you. You just did give a clap there, but Natalie's done a great job at putting this together. So can we give Natalie another big round of applause, please? So my name's Nick, and I'm a founder member of Norwich Pride and a trustee, and now I am a patron, and it's been really nice to hand this over to Natalie this year. But no rest this morning. I've been invited back to host, which I'm very happy to do. And I'm really happy to do that because we've got such an amazing panel. So I'm going to introduce the panel, and then I'm going to hand over to them. So on my right, your left, not politically, just kind of as they're positioned, we have Crystal, pronouns they, them. So the first thing I'm just going to say about Crystal is that Crystal sued Lawrence Fox for £180,000. I mean, we're talking about joy. I mean, that's enough. We can end it there. But they are a well-known drag queen, TV host, and DJ coming to prominence, competing on the first season of RuPaul's Drag Race. Then next to Crystal, we have Leanne Collier-Wilson, pronouns she, they. Leanne self-describes, as the T-shirt shows, as an old dyke who has been out and proud for 42 years. And I guess she is on the panel because for the past 3 years, she's been co-director of Queer Fest Norwich, a queer arts and wellbeing festival celebrating LGBTQIA+ History Month. So excellent exhibition on at the Assembly House. If you haven't seen it, definitely do. And then next person along, we have Kit Doidge, pronouns they, them. And Kit is here representing the inclusive touch rugby team Iceni. And Kit is also a teacher. Give Kit a round of applause, please. In my day job, I too am a teacher. It's always great to see teachers on the panel, and we're going to finish off by somebody else involved in education. So Kate Hicks, pronouns they, them, who completes the panel. Kate is a trained youth worker with 2 jobs, a PSHE teacher for marginalised young people, and as a freelance trainer for both professionals and young people. They're also an activist, political organiser, and finishing an MA in public policy. Must be pretty busy. Please give all of our panellists a huge round of applause. Okay, so Natalie's given me 4 questions, which we're going to get through, and then hopefully leave some time for audience questions as well. As we said in the introduction, it's been an incredibly challenging year for the whole community, but especially trans people. Why do you think it can be beneficial to belong to LGBTQIA organisations or community groups? What experiences have you had, and how have they helped with your own well-being? I'm going to go to Kit first for that.
Okay, hi everybody. So I'm here to talk to you because I come from Iceni. We've got some representatives here in the lovely shirts as well. But Iceni is the first LGBTQIA+ touch rugby team in Norfolk. And I joined a year and a half ago now. And I didn't come out until a bit later in life. And I am both lesbian and non-binary. And I didn't come out as gay until I was about 30. And non-binary actually came out this year. So it's been quite a process. And I'm now sitting here on this stage, part of this talk, not feeling like an expert at all, but I'm going to do my best. And when I joined Iceni, the biggest thing that they gave to me is a community that was there to support me. And if any of you are out there sitting here or at Pride today, not sure where to go, you need to find your people. That's the biggest thing you can do to find your pride and find who you are. Because I met such a range of people. I think I had in my head before I came out that everybody knew they were gay the moment they were born, and I was the only person there struggling until I was 30 trying to work out who on earth I was. And that is not the case at all. Everyone has got their own story and everyone has got their own journey. And as soon as you start talking to other people who have been through it and you go, oh, I felt like that. Hang on, I felt this way as well. You get a sense of support and you get a sense of understanding who you are, and then you start to try something out. And I started to question my gender expression, and I met some wonderful people through Iceni who are also non-binary, and I spoke to them, and by having those conversations I was able to come out to a small group of people, and they were so accepting and so supportive of me. That gave me the confidence to be who I was, and then come out to another group of people, and then come out to my family. And it spiraled. And every experience I had was so much better than what I expected. I also mentioned that I was a teacher. I'm not going to talk too much about teaching, but having come out this year, I did also change my name and my title at my school. And Serena was talking in the talk earlier about a teacher, I think, who had had a bad experience. So we're talking about positive experiences. The kids have been incredible. They've picked up my title of Mix instantly. The teachers around the school have picked up my new name of Kit. It's incredible. And so things are changing, and it's really, really lovely to see such progress.
Thank you very much. I'm going to ask the same question around communities to Leanne now, perhaps thinking about the arts communities or any others that you're part of.
Well, like I say, I've been out for a long time and the world has changed in that time. And when I was young, we didn't have communities. And I grew up in New Zealand, so it was even smaller. And it was really hard to have an identity. So to have I really believe that you can't be it unless you can see it. And that's one of the things I'm really pleased about, is that we've got more representation of queer people in the media. It's not always positive, but you can see that there are queer people in the world. There are queer characters in films and TV. And I really endorse what you said, Kit. Finding your community, finding the people that will love you, accept you, get you and have your back for the tough times, but also who will be fun and loving and who will enjoy your company. I think that's the thing that's essential, because essentially humans are pack animals, so we need each other. And when you have a pack, you're supported. So it was my spouse's idea to have an art exhibition for Queer History Month, LGBTQIA History Month, and we called it Queer Fest, and it kind of mushroomed very quickly from 2 weeks in the shoe factory to a kind of month-long festival and celebration. And the thing that has been most important for me, and I guess a lot of other people in Norwich, is that sense of queer space that we occupy, that we can be authentic in, that we get each other, and that we can shut the door, actually. We can say, sorry, but you're not welcome. Everyone's welcome when they're kind and respectful, but otherwise, I'm trying not to swear, I'm very sweary. Sorry. Yeah, so I think that's the thing for me. Those queer spaces are nourishing. They feed your soul, they feed your creativity, and they help us, each of us, to be the best that we can be. Because the thing that Serena said earlier that really chimed with me is being your authentic self. And if you're in a space where that's welcome and understood and respected, it makes you happy. And so I guess that's my answer to why community. Cheers.
Oh, thank you, Leanne. Some great words there. Crystal, the drag community can come across maybe as quite an adversarial space sometimes, but also a place where there is community. How have you found that, and what's your tribe?
Sure. I think you're right. Drag isn't necessarily the most welcoming community of all. I would encourage you to explore it if it's something that you're interested in. But I think what I want to talk about just briefly right now is I think the benefit that we can all see in community is just right around us right now in this room. It's so gorgeous. Walking through Norwich this morning, seeing all of the amazing different kinds of people, seeing all the different kinds of people in this room is just so immediately palpable that community brings joy, brings acceptance, brings freedom. And I love doing prides for that exact reason, because it's just like a recharge of my batteries that reminds me that it's okay to be yourself the whole year round. And I hope that that's what everyone in this room gets out of today as well. We've got such an opportunity to build community today and then to carry that through for the rest of the year. And I know that everyone here is going to be feeling all of the benefits of community after today. So just well done to you for turning up.
Thank you. And lastly on this question, Kate, so you're involved in political activism and political organisation. Never has that been more important. Is it true that political activity does make you feel better and links you together with people that are like-minded?
Massively, yeah. So my first experience of queer community ever was something that I kind of stumbled into through about 5-6 years ago, being part of London Young Labour, going down to London and doing a lot of activism. I stress this is Labour under a very different kind of guise than we unfortunately have our red Tory government at the moment. But yeah, so I think activism for me was a real vehicle for kind of self-expression and sort of questioning yourself, and also channeling a lot of the righteous anger that we all kind of feel at how broken the world feels right now and how poorly we're treated, and channeling that into positive action. So for me, it was a way to explore queer community, because just like any other kind of group, we're not homogenous, and there are sections within the LGBTQ+ community that have different values, different beliefs. And for me, finding community wasn't just finding community on the basis of sexuality or gender, but actually it was on the basis of those values, of a radical view of the world, that we're not just looking for assimilation, we're looking to change things up and to work together to effect change, to effect liberation, both for each other and also for all other marginalised communities in society, because we are not free until everybody is free. And I think that rather than just being a positive experience, it was actively really empowering, and it helped sort of shape how I sort of viewed the world and how the kind of things that I envisioned could ever be possible.
Thank you very much. Thank you to all the panellists for the answer to question 1. If you do want to come in, like I say at the end, there'll be time for questions. If you do want to make a point on the current question, feel free to raise your hand. Lovely. James is at the back with a roving mic and can come over to you. So I'm going to stick with Kate for the answer to the next one. Again, just to repeat, it's been a tremendously difficult year with the Supreme Court judgment, the Trump ban on trans people in the military, many other things. And there are so many increasingly negative stereotypes and narratives around us. So what's your advice to people around coming out, especially to young people? Are we still encouraging young people to come out when the climate is so difficult? So Kate, as somebody working with young people sometimes, what's your view on that?
I think, firstly, it's always really important to encourage people to reflect on how safe they are in situations. Safety always needs to be the guiding principle. But I think more than that, to enable and facilitate spaces and relationships where even if particularly young people aren't out in the entirety of their life, where they can have sort of windows and pockets of community and spaces where they can explore and talk about the experiences that they're having. I think that's really, really valuable, and that it's not an all or nothing situation. And I think for me, I think it's really also very important to take a lot of the pressure off. So I think young people, and I think of kind of all people, to some extent, like homonormativity is something that's not really talked about very much, which is the idea that there are specific ways to be gay or indeed to be bi, to be trans, and that there's kind of a one singular linear experience, whether that's the way that you kind of present yourself or the amount of time it takes for you to kind of find your identity. And I think actually allowing for a kind of more of a pluralism of different experiences, that there's no correct one way to be trans, to be gay, to be bi. There's no one way to be queer, and there's no such thing as being queer enough. As soon as you say you're queer, honey, you're queer, and that is enough. We are all enough. And so, yeah, that's, I think, a really important message to give to all people. And, yeah, I think that's kind of me.
Thank you very much. Kit, have you noticed, over the past year, people perhaps less keen to come out at school, or do you think the appetite's still there for young people to be themselves?
Do you know, it's funny you say that, because actually it's kids that inspired me, because they were so confident with it. It's really changing, and I've had students come up to me and they just I had a girl in one of my classes, and she was like, "Oh, don't worry, my girlfriend helped me with that last night." I was like, I'm both equally in awe of you and so envious that, you're a 16-year-old coming up to me saying, "My girlfriend." It's like, I'm so jealous right now, because I could not have done that when I was 16 for, it's a different time. We've come a long way. So we definitely come a long way, but there's still, I think it's sort of, we still see the problems behind the scenes. There's still sort of language that's used, homophobic language used to kind of create that narrative which sort of criticizes the queer community, but they're finding their identities quicker. So I'm definitely seeing it in teaching. But I'm going to add on as well, like, in terms of coming out, and if you feel like you can or you can't, it doesn't have to be that you are out and out to everyone and everything in order to feel like you are out. So if you can find a community that, like I said earlier, with a safe space, if you're finding whatever that is, whether it's in sport, I'm going to be an advocate for sport, of course, but in any safe community, if you feel like you're out, you are out, even if it's to one person, even if it's just to yourself, okay? You are still out, and you should be out and proud. And being safe is, of course, the thing, and your community can hopefully support you with that.
Thank you. I just totally agree with that. We held a day for Pride Month. That seems a bit silly, doesn't it? A day for Pride Month, but we had a day where we had a stall with Norfolk LGBT Project at lunchtime at my school, and the kids were just so keen, and just anybody wanted to come up and take a sticker. So I think the poison that has seeped through some of society, it certainly doesn't seem to have reached the young people yet, which is very positive. Leanne, you say in your bio you've been out and proud for 42 years. We're all bemoaning the way that the last few years have gone. But surely if you look at the arc of the 42 years, things are still largely better than they have been at some times in the past. Would you agree?
Hugely. I think, I'm just thinking, in the 90s, Rachel and I lived in a flat, and it was in a terrace, and on the corner of the road, right next to the terrace, there was a furniture shop. And Rachel's butch, non-binary, and every day they would go past the furniture shop on the way home, and this little chap came slithering out, and he would go, "Fucking filthy dyke," and spit. And that happened whenever he saw Rach. And there was no legislation to protect against any kind of ongoing abuse like that. There was no harassment legislation. We have that protection in law now. We have the Equality Act. The good news about that story about Rach is we're still here, but the furniture shop folded. So, yeah, and to young people, I mean, adolescence is the hardest time in your life, in my experience. I wouldn't go back to that stage for anything, but it gets better. I mean, I'm 60. I've lived through times where it wasn't okay to be out, where there was no legal protection, where coming out to my mum said I was an abomination in the eyes of God. And I'm still here, and I'm having an okay life. And if I can do that, anyone can. The thing is, if you're struggling, ask for help. And if the person that you first ask is useless, move on. Just keep talking to people until you find someone who understands what you're talking about and has got the love and the time and the energy to support you, because that is what you deserve and that is what you can find. Especially in Norwich, we're really lucky here. This is a very comparatively safe place to be queer. And I don't want to, I don't want to take away from anyone's distress or difficulties or pain. I'm a cis white woman sitting here talking about this stuff, but we are an amazingly strong, supportive community. So come out, don't come out, but just do the best you can to be happy and safe.
Thank you. Yeah, completely echo that around Norwich. It does feel comparatively a great place to be. And Crystal, what's your message to young people around coming out?
I think it's really interesting what everyone said, and I think there is something really true now about coming out feeling a little bit of an outdated concept now. I think in a lot of ways, adolescents don't feel the need to anymore. It's just you can just exist without needing to make a grand declaration about being different or being something else. But I think what I want to say now, and it's something that I'm seeing more and more in my relationships with my friends, and maybe coming out just for all of us is something that we should think about outgrowing, because why do we have to ever stop changing? I think there's something so optimistic about giving ourselves the possibility of continual growth and saying, this is who I am at this moment, but there's maybe another form of me to come. And I know I never want to stop changing. I never want my queerness to be rigid or fixed or fully defined. I'd love the possibility of something new in the future. And I think that we should give ourselves grace to say, there's maybe another step to come. I think it's so optimistic. I think it's so powerful, and just accepting someone where they are, but giving them the space and opportunity to grow. I think that's what coming out should look like going forward.
Oh, great, thank you very much. So the furniture shop that Leanne was talking about folded, and so did Lawrence Fox's case. So I mean, I'm going off script, Natalie, sorry. But I just hate that man so much. And I saw on X that he was moving to Ireland, and just feel so sorry for the people of Ireland, because they're a great country. So, Crystal, I've just got to ask an additional question.
Sure.
When you found out that you'd sued him for £180,000, how did it feel?
Oh my God, well, you can come to my talk at 14:45, at 2:45, right back here. I'm doing a 30-minute conversation about all of it.
Cool.
But I'll give you a preview. It felt really, really nice. It felt really nice. I felt like everyone breathed a big sigh of relief. I didn't realize how many people were holding the stress of that with me. I thought it was something I was doing by myself, and as soon as the judgment came down, I realized a lot of people were following it, and a lot of people were interested, and a lot of people were really invested in watching that man squirm. So it was really, really satisfying. But yeah, I've got a lot to say about it, and I guess I'll do that in a little bit.
If you come back later, Crystal pops up a lot. You can see everything they're doing in the Pride Guide.
You can't get away from me today.
So you can't escape. But we are going to stay with you just quickly for the final main question. So how would you like to see LGBTQIA people represented in the media or in political conversations? What's missing at the moment, and what's the best way for us to get positive representation?
I think media has, just to compare how things were when I was growing up versus how they are now, it is incredible. And I think it is really worth remembering how far things have come, how much representation we've got. The reason so many people on the far right are angry is because we are in their faces, and that I think is a wonderful thing. I think it's so great how visible we are, how much different kinds of representation, how many different kinds of media. It's really wonderful. I think that the thing that's missing is there's been so much noise about trans people over the past year, and so rarely are trans people included in that conversation. It's so often people talking about trans people without a trans person being in the room, and I just think that's shameful. I think, and it needs to stop. So I would love to see, you know, more trans people talking about trans issues, especially when it comes to the news.
Hear, hear. Thank you. Kit, same question, please.
Sorry, I've got a tickle in my throat now. Brilliant. So I think, as like Crystal said, it's come a really long way. I sort of say to a lot of my friends, I think the only lesbians I saw at any point growing up was the video, All the Things She Said by Tattoo. That was literally it. And that was
That was a banger, though.
Yeah, it was a banger, but definitely not as intended. That was for the male gaze, I think. And now you look at what there is in the media and what there is for younger people to watch. Well, and us, I'm absorbing it like you wouldn't believe, watching Heartstopper back to front several times, because I didn't have that as a kid. So it's really come a long way. I think what we do need more of, though, is for those sorts of shows to not, they're brilliant, but all we see is the focus on people's struggles with coming out or their mental health, struggles in telling their family that they're, and it's focusing on all the sort of, that's their adversity story. That's what they've had to overcome. And it would be lovely to have more in the media of just queer people, living their lives, going through the same adversity that everybody else does, and celebrating that and seeing that and normalizing the queer community in the media in that way.
Thank you. Kate.
So I think in terms of visibility, it's really important for us to kind of break down this notion that there are quote-unquote kind of queer issues, LGBT issues, trans issues. Actually, these topics impact communities beyond the queer community, and vice versa. Issues of class, other sort of political issues are as much queer issues as anything else. So, for example, the government's horrendous proposed cuts to disabled people's benefits. Actually, that's not a disabled issue. We know that queer people are disproportionately likely to be disabled, and therefore disproportionately likely to be impacted by these benefit cuts. So I think in terms of representation, it's not just about individuals, but it's about the entire kind of topic of politics and how we siphon off some issues as being identity politics, and other issues as being kind of real politics, and never the twain shall meet. And I think also in terms of representation, it's really important that we diversify the kind of queer people that we see. Particularly, I'm conscious that we're on kind of an all-white panel here, and thinking about people with different religious backgrounds, different cultural backgrounds, because I think often when we're discussing queerness, and sort of the poster child for queerness is often a white, able-bodied, thin, conventionally attractive, cis gay man, right? Often middle class. And I think that that's really unhelpful, and it does a real injustice to our community. And finally, I think it would be remiss on a sort of a politics panel if we didn't mention Palestine and the fact that we're all living through a genocide. And that includes the killing of queer Palestinians. Our queer siblings and the rest of our Palestinian siblings need our solidarity right now, and the way that we get change is through collective action. So I'd really encourage people to look into the BDS, boycott, divest and sanction movement as a way of affecting that change, and challenging the decisions of the Israeli regime. And yeah, I think that I'm aware that that's not a particularly jolly kind of thing to be ending on. However, I think there is something really hopeful to come out of this, and that's the apartheid regime in South Africa largely ended because of the activism and the boycott and divestment and sanctions that were imposed on them, and that were sort of initiated by individuals. And so my kind of pivot towards a hopeful position is let's all collectively work together to see an end to this genocide, to see an end to the apartheid regime in Palestine, and see a free Palestine in our lifetime.
Thank you for saying that, Kate. Just also in terms of broadening things out, some people will be aware that the far right are attacking a hotel, the Brook Hotel, that houses refugees and asylum seekers today, and quite a few people are mobilising to go up there and try and keep that situation safe and to protest against that. So it's important, just as we would hope people from other groups that are being attacked would support us, that we do the same thing. And also, as Kate said, we're not all separated into the same groups. We overlap and blend into each other. Leanne, you thinking of how media representation has changed over the years. I remember when I was a student at good old UEA, sort of sneaking into my room and watching Queer as Folk sort of in secret. And nowadays the kids at my school are talking loudly about Heartstopper. How do you think media representation and things on TV and stuff has changed over the years?
Well, the queer and queer-coded characters don't live unhappy, unfulfilled, ostracised lives and die in the end anymore, which was really what happened in my early life, if they were there at all. They were sad figures of fun, or they were the evil character, thinking like stuff like Killing of Sister George. But I still think there's a measure of lesbian erasure currently. I think that much as we love Russell T Davies, there was no representation of the tireless work that lesbians did to support ill gay men during the peak of the AIDS crisis. And we do still live in a patriarchal, heteronormative, white colonial, white supremacist world. And I think my message to young people, harking back to that, is that stuff is really seductive, but we don't have to accept it and we don't have to believe it. And it's okay to have a day off as well. We think about, we can think about our issues and everyone's issues, and I think what Kate said about solidarity and intersectionality, that is the way we all survive. But it's okay to say, actually, I'm tired and I can't go on that march today. And my wish for everyone is that we have the resources to focus on self-care when we need to, and loving and supporting those of us around who need that when they want to. So it's the same message really. It's be yourself, find your people, support your community, notice what's happening to other people, because if it's not affecting us now, in 10 minutes it will be. And also the diminishment of anyone's rights, life, entitlement to be on this planet is a diminishment of humanity and impacts us all. So, yeah, and more old dykes on the telly. and plus, like queer people, it's not just one note. Being lesbian or being whatever flavour of queer you might be, that's not the entirety of our lives. Like, some of us are disabled, some of us are black or brown, some of us are parents and queer. So yeah, I think that's my answer to what I'd like to see, is that being queer is nothing to be remarked about in the media or what. It's just the same as any other kind of identity, that everyone's accepted and respected for being a person and being alive. And I forgot the other thing, but yeah, that's the end of my TED talk.
More old dykes on TV. If we could petition the BBC for one old dyke on TV in particular, who would you choose?
Well, there are lots of really admirable old dykes, but they're not in dramas. They're, people like Sandy Toksvig, who are around and are just doing what they do. So it's not that we're absent everywhere, it's that notion of the sort of drama and light entertainment thing for me, I guess. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Okay, we're just over halfway through, so I'd like to open it up to you for questions in a minute. So James, get ready. And just before we do that, could we just give a couple of thank yous? Could we thank Tracy, our signer? And could we thank Rebecca, who is doing the brilliant board at the back there. And thank you to James and all of our other volunteers that are helping with this event. Okay, so over to you. What would you like to ask? It can be a comment, but ideally a question. And if you're behind this screen, definitely look towards James rather than me.
I struggle with my sexuality because I'm on the waiting list to be transgender, and it's a struggle to know why people can't be so accepted for me. So any advice you can give me to become more comfortable? As you can see, I come out as Billy at night time, but today I am Billy today.
Any advice? Who would like to take that first? No pressure.
Yeah, I'm happy to start. I mean, firstly, I just want to say it's absolutely sick that you're here. And thank you so much for speaking out and being yourself. I think that will have a really kind of inspiring effect on lots of other people, and it speaks volumes about you as a person and that strength. I think in terms of advice, giving yourself time to figure things out, to find out, what your identity now means for you is really, really important. I think finding community, and I think obviously Pride is a really good space to do that, where you can look around the room and see a whole sea of queer adults and queer young people with a whole diversity of experience to kind of really reinforce in your head that we're not alone, because I think something that we all have in common being LGBT, whatever kind of flavour or combination of flavours people identify as, I think it's that we've all had that feeling of being the odd one out, being the weirdo, being other. And I think actually to flip those dynamics and have this kind of environment where we're the majority, right? Screw all those straight people.
Some of my best friends are straight.
Well, they don't have to shove it down their throats, isn't it? Shove it down our throats. But yeah, I think there's something very cathartic and healing about that. So yeah, really cultivating, finding people with shared experiences where your queerness kind of becomes a bit unremarkable, really, is what I would suggest. And also, just in all aspects of your life, I think it's, there's reasons that the queer community disproportionately suffer also with mental health issues, and because of all of the sort of institutionalised shame of living in a cis heteronormative society. So I think making every effort that we can in every aspect of our life to take care of ourselves and be kind to ourselves, something I always say to my young people and to my students, and I try to say it to myself with however imperfectly, is try and treat yourself like your best friend. If you wouldn't do it to your best friend, would you do it to yourself? If you wouldn't say those things, even in your own head, when our negative narratives come in and we start thinking, unkind things towards ourselves, if you wouldn't want your best friend to be thinking that, why are you thinking that about yourself? Because you're just every bit as worthy and every bit as important as them. So yeah, I think that's a really important thing for all of us actually to take away. And it's incredibly difficult and it's a journey, and we're all going to be imperfect at it, and that's okay. But yeah, together we can help each other out.
Yeah, I was going to add in as well. Take your time. I think it's really hard as well trying to work out what your label is. It's like we come from when you start coming out, like, I need to fit into a box. Oh God, which box is it? And like, which label am I going to pick? And I've flitted, and I love the word queer because it's just like, it makes it, I think that's who I am, because I haven't been able to settle on a specific label because I'm still trying to work it out. And as Crystal said earlier, it is still a journey. I'm not a finished product. I'm still discovering who I am. So take your time and be kind to yourself and let that happen in its own good time.
Brilliant, thank you.
I think it's really hard to manage your expectations of the NHS in the current climate. And it's not going to get better. And so it's being patient, but also reminding yourself that while the body that we walk around in is important, it's actually a vessel, and it doesn't define us, and neither does anyone else. So whatever you are in your mind and in your heart, that's who you are. And love that, and do your best to be comfortable while you're in this journey with where you are, because you don't know how long it's going to be. And also, I'm a great believer in the squeaky wheel gets the oil. So follow up, ring, send them emails, say how long, what's the wait time now? And they'll keep fobbing you off until you're so annoying that they do something to get rid of you.
Just be a massive pain in the arse, basically.
That's how we've won a lot. Crystal?
Yeah, I would just echo that. I'd say patience with yourself and impatience with the world. I think demand what you need, but also, be kind and patient with yourself. I think it's exactly what everyone has said, but sounds like you're on the right path.
Brilliant. There's a lot of wisdom on this panel, and it reminds me of that quote from Audre Lorde around well-being. Well-being and self-care is an active revolution. It's really important that we look after ourselves in such difficult times. Okay, thank you for that question. Was that helpful? Brilliant. Okay, have we got another question? Over there.
Oh no, we've got one here.
We'll have time to come to you over there.
Hiya, my name's Charlie. I work in education post-16, particularly with SEND learners. And so, like you guys were saying, statistically, people with additional needs can be queer, and like Kate said 2 seconds ago, also have a lot of mental health attached to that. My question, I guess, and what would be really cool to hear from you guys is, what sort of advice would you give someone like myself and anyone else here who works in education to be able to provide those vulnerable people safe spaces?
I think I'd emphasize you're not on your own. If you're working in anyone who's working in education, it takes a village, I suppose. It can feel very scary when a student or young person comes to you for advice. And I think particularly for me, with how I present, a lot of students come specifically to me, which can be quite overwhelming. It's a huge compliment because clearly they feel it's a safe space, but it's also not all for on your shoulders. So you need to make sure that you have got the backing of the school or college or wherever you work, because you're also not really there to give specific advice. I think that's also what I'd emphasize is we can talk about our own experiences, but in that professional setting, that's not really what you're there for to some extent. You're there to be a listening ear. So be that safe space, take it on, and then pass it on to the professionals that can really support them. That'd be my advice.
Yeah, and just sort of, firstly, I'd echo all of those things. But also, as someone who also works in education post-16, I think it's really important for us to model the kind of anti-oppressive practice that we would like, and the anti-oppressive values that we would like our young people to inherit. And I think that is really helpful because you never know what young people are dealing with in their personal lives. And I've had young people approach me years after working with me, who were never out as queer and quite kind of cis heteronormative kind of presentation, who actually said that, several years ago when you were talking about healthy relationships and you referred to, when you're older and you get a boyfriend or a girlfriend or a partner or you just get a dog, whatever, by having that kind of open like approach and not making assumptions, it actually created a space for them where they felt like even in their head they could begin to kind of come out to themselves, which is a really important thing that we don't talk about enough, I don't think, coming out to yourself before you even consider coming out to the rest of the world. So yeah, I think trying to model that inclusive practice and not making assumptions, because ultimately we never know who's kind of struggling and questioning, and yeah, also veering away from that. I think often as humans, when people come to us in a time of difficulty, we can want to kind of give advice because there's a part of us that can want to solve things so that we can take the struggle away. But rather than giving specific advice, validation, just a really simple thing of saying and sort of bearing witness to somebody and being like, I can see that this is really difficult, you're going through a lot, and it's amazing that you've been able to talk about it and open up to me. It's amazing that you've even turned up to college or to school today. So yeah, having that approach that's validating and really hearing them and then empowering them by kind of asking, you know, who in your life who else have you got who you feel safe with? Where else can you go? Would you like me to support you to access a place like the LGBT project or MAP or any other kind of resource, so to kind of put the ball back in their court rather than having the urge to kind of intervene and say, this is what I think you should do. I think it's much more helpful to empower and validate and help people make decisions for themselves.
Thanks, Kate. I want to take one more question, so I'll just let the remaining panellists finish answering this one.
I also think making a connection so that you establish yourself as a safe person, so that the student, the service user knows that you're willing to listen and that they can ask you anything or say anything, and having a kind of respectful curiosity about their lives. So talk to the kids about what's going on for them. I think it's really important to admit your ignorance. It's fine to say, oh wow, I don't know anything about that, but I'm going to go away and find out, and then we can talk about it some more. And I would also encourage you, assuming that this hasn't already happened, which may be erroneous, to know about neurodivergence, because it's so prevalent amongst queer people. It's significant statistically how many queer people are also neurodivergent and also have some kind of disability. But yeah, it's really just being that safe, interested, loving, kind person.
Thank you.
I think that sounds like you're already well on the path to creating a safe space just by demonstrating this curiosity today, by being here, by being interested in learning more. So just trust in yourself and everything else that everyone else has already said.
Thank you very much. And I think it's worth just reflecting. I think it's going to take everybody working in education an extra amount of bravery. I think there is going to be legislation and attacks from the media on the idea of doing things for LGBT people in schools. Keeping children safe, which is the key bit of safeguarding legislation, has come out with the caveat that things could change in light of government guidance. As somebody that's a bit older, I've been doing stuff in schools for 15, 20 years, and it's only been the last couple of years where actually there's been a pushback, and some parents have complained that I've been trying to groom children just by running a club and things like that. So things are changing. So I think huge respect to everybody in school that is being out and is doing things, and I think more of that bravery and compassion is going to be needed for sure. Okay, our final question. Thank you.
Hello, I'm realising my question's a bit silly now, but as folks were saying, it's as sort of a younger queer person, it's really easy to get completely overwhelmed by everything that's happening. It's really tempting to feel like this is new and this is scary, but one thing that I draw a lot of inspiration from is the fact that we have gone through this before. Like, we are a community of fighters, and there aren't enough people around to tell queer history now, but it is so important to look into and to learn about. So I wanted to know, are there any sort of historical queer figures or like activists that you draw inspiration from? Thank you.
Okay, that's a great question. Who'd like to go first?
I have lots, so I'm trying to rack my brain for who's my favourite.
Just one. We've only got 8
I'm going
minutes.
to try. Yeah, I'll try and be really concise. For me, Lesbians Against the Claws were absolutely sick. For those of you who don't know, a very kind of quick sort of version of events. Lesbians Against the Claws were a group of lesbians, funnily enough, who during Section 28, when it was being introduced to prohibit the discussion and just the acknowledging of homosexuality in schools, they abseiled into the House of Lords, which is so sad. And you can watch the videos online. I showed it to a class recently for Pride Month, and they were in awe. So yeah, I think for me that spirit, especially as as a big old leser, seeing kind of my lesbian forerunners out, kind of sticking it to the establishment and saying actually that, like, refusing to be silenced and to be made invisible. And also very, very quickly, lesbians and gays support the miners who stood in solidarity with mining communities being hammered by Thatcher. It's a big 80s theme, I've realised I'm coming out with today. But yeah, in terms of that intersectional struggle, the attacks against working class communities are disproportionately attacks against queer communities, and there's no liberation for anybody without liberation for everybody. So it's really important that we're having that intersectional struggle, that we're standing in solidarity with one another, and I think that the LGSM really model that, and that's something that we can all learn from today.
I was going to say Lesbians Against Support the Miners, but I'll also say John Waters and Divine, who just made disgusting, radical, in-your-face art that dared people to freak out. And I think we can all learn something from just being a little bit more gross.
Follow that.
For me, there are too many to name, but I guess the people that I admire the most are people who have marginalisation, and I think particularly about black women and the struggles that they have had, not only with society at large, but also within their own communities. I also think that the men who are still around and who in the 90s got HIV, and they're not even famous, they're just people who are living their lives and getting on with stuff. Those are everyday heroes for me. And there are lots of, older queer folk in your neighbourhood. So, yeah, and don't be afraid to talk to people and ask them, because they'll tell you if you're annoying them. But most of us really want to talk about ourselves. So having a new audience is really refreshing. And just thank you for being here and for being brave enough to ask a question. I think you should be really proud of yourself. Lots of love.
Thank you. And Kit?
Yeah, I think that's a tricky question, and I've gone completely blank. So I would agree with what Leanne's just said, is actually find the people that are in your life immediately. The people in this room, look at how many people are sat here and what Norwich Pride has become. So I would find your people today and focus on those.